Okay, so I'm going to look at these adding of fractions. I'm going to look at them just like the way we're going to do it today. So I'm going to pretend that these have X's and Y's and stuff in them. They don't. They're pretty easy. But I'm going to do them the exact same way that we're going to do the stuff today. So number 1, 3/7 plus 2/3. We can only add things that are like terms. And to be like terms with fractions, they have to have the same denominator. So when I talk about something like 3/7, I'm talking about 3 1/7.
Good morning. Teachers, please check your email for the list of students for air testing. Please send those students to the community room at this time. Thank you.
Okay, I am going to erase what I just wrote down, but I want you to think about 3/7 as 3 pieces that are 1/7 each. And then 2 1/3 would be 2 pieces and they're 1/3 each. So we cannot add these because they're different size of pieces. You guys remember when you did pizzas, when you were learning fractions? You remember this? Here's my 1/3. Here's my 2/3. You guys remember that? So in order to add them, they have to be the same size of slice. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to factor 7 and 3. But for 7 and 3, their only factors are 1 in themselves. So I can't factor them. They have nothing in common. If they have nothing in common, then the lowest common denominator is going to be both of them multiplied together. So my lowest common denominator LCD, lowest common denominator is going to be 21. So 3/7 to make the bottom 21, I have to multiply it by 3, but I can't just multiply it by 3 on the bottom. We have to multiply by a value of 1. So the value of this does not change. We're going to add that to 2/3, but I have to multiply by a value of 1. So I'll do 7/7. So I'll give me 9 21s plus 14 21s, and I'll add those together. 23 over 21 will be my answer. So now when you get to number 2, 10 does factor. 10 is 2 times 5. So what we did with the lowest common multiple yesterday is we circled the ones that were in common. And we wrote it once. And then we multiplied by anything else that is there. So both of them have a 5, but only one of them has a 2. So I need to make sure that both of them have a 2. My lowest common denominator will be 10. So I'm going to have 7/10 plus 8/5, and I'm going to take that 8/5 and multiply by 2 over 2. Multiply by that number that I need to make it a 10. So 7/10 plus 16/10 is 23 over 10. Please don't change them into an improper fraction. I lied. Leave them as an improper fraction. Don't change them into a mixed number because we can't really type that into Canvas when we do this kind of stuff. I'm going to skip ahead and go to number 4. We have gone over this so far this year. We have gone over this. We had an assignment like it. Does anybody in here remember what I should do first when I have a situation where I have fractions over fractions? We didn't take a quiz on it. Does anybody remember? Jacob, do you remember?
I think I do. If you multiply by 5/3, you multiply the top by 5/3.
I will, but I'm going to do something else first. Just to make it easier, I'm going to do something else first. Something that I have to do to the top. Or if you look at the last question, it was something I would have to do the top and the bottom. Ryan, do you remember? We need to take the top and we need to actually make it one fraction. So we're going to do this math first. So we have one fraction. And the top does not have common denominator. So what would be the common denominator between 3 and 2? Amar? 6. So we're going to multiply this one by 2 over 2, this one by 3 over 3. And I'll get 4 6s minus 3 6s, which gives me 1/6. So that's my numerator, 1/6 over 3/5. And then Jacob said we need to multiply the top by, what do we need to multiply by? The reciprocal of the denominator. So instead of division, instead of 1/6 divided by 3 over 5, we're going to do 1/6 multiplied by 5 over 3. Remember, we multiply straight across. 5 over 18 would be our answer. We're going to learn a different method today. Towards the end, we're going to learn a different method. So what I just did was I made the top and the bottom one fraction. And then we multiplied by the reciprocal. Okay? I'm going to show you a different way of doing what we just did to simplify that. Do right here. I'm just going to rewrite this same problem. 2/3 minus 1/2 over 3/5. Now, when we do this in class later, when I put the X's and stuff in it, if you like method 1, you are welcome to use method 1 the whole time. Method 2 is a shorter version, but you have to understand why it works or you're going to make silly mistakes. So method 2 is you're going to find your lowest common denominator of all the denominators. So I'm going to look at 3, 2, and 5 together. I'm going to look at 3, 2, and 5, and you're going to tell me the lowest common denominator of 3, 2, and 5. 3, 2, and 5 have no factors in common. So we just multiply them all together. What is the lowest common denominator of 3, 2, and 5? Sierra. 30. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to multiply by a value of 1. And it's going to be 30 over 30. So I'm allowed to do that because it equals 1. So it doesn't change the value. I'm doing it to the top and the bottom. So when I multiply by 30 over 30, this 30 has to distribute. And I'm going to get 60 over 3 minus 30 over 2 divided by 90 over 5. And then I'm going to simplify. 60 over 3 is 20. 30 over 2 is 15. And 90 over 5 is 18. And I get 5/18. So can you see these two methods are different? The first method, we're adding the fractions together and then multiplying by the reciprocal of the denominator. The second method, we are multiplying everything by the lowest common denominator, and it just reduces the answer. So let's look at number 6. And I'm going to do both methods real fast. So we'll do method number 1. So method number 1 is we're going to find common denominators, add the fractions together. So on top, 2 and 5, what's the common denominator of 2 and 5, Holland? Okay, good. So then I'll multiply this one by 2 over 2 and this one by 5 over 5. So both denominators will be 10. Get 25/10 minus 14/10. On the bottom, we've got -2/3 plus 4. And I need a common denominator. So -2 is over 3, 4 is over 1. Yes, dear. Explain what part, hon? So we are making the bottom number exactly the same. So both 2 and 5 go into 10. So I'm multiplying 2 times 5 and 5 times 2 to make them both 10. But you are not allowed to only multiply the bottom of a fraction. You have to multiply by the same thing on top. So it doesn't change the value. Again, we're multiplying by a 1. 5 over 5 is 1. Emma, can you tell me what the common denominator of the bottom would be? For the 3 and the 1. 3. So I'm going to multiply -2/3 by nothing because it's already a 3. And I multiply 4 by 3 over 3. So I get -2 over 3 plus 12 over 3. And now my next step would be to add or subtract. So on top, I get, what, 11/10? On the bottom, we get 10/3. So we have 11 over 10 divided by 10 over 3. And we're going to change that to multiplication. 11 over 10 multiplied by 3 over 10, which gives me 33 over 100. So that's method 1. I'm going to do it again by method 2. Sorry, I don't know what the question is. So method 2 says, what is the LCD, the lowest common denominator of all of the fractions? So of 5, 2, 3, and 4 over 1. So what does 5 and 2 and 3 divide into? I feel like we just did those exact same numbers. Ashlyn? 30. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 30 over 30. So I'll distribute that 30. On top, I'm going to get, what's 30 times what? 150 over 2 minus 210 over 5. And then on the bottom, we'll get negative 60 over 3 plus 120. We simplify that. I get 75 minus 20, 41. 41? So 41? What? Oh, it is 42. Thank you. And then negative 20 plus 120. So 75 minus 42 is 33 over 100. Same answer. So now you have two methods for doing the complex fractions. Complex rational fractions. Okay. All right, so that's just numbers. Now we're going to do it with more than numbers. Today we are adding fractions that have unlike denominators. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to find our LCD, which is the exact same way that we find our LCM, which is what you did in your assignment. So I'm going to start with 9x squared. That is 3 times 3 times x times x. And then 3x I can factor out of 3x squared plus 3x. I should have written that first. Hold on. So I have 3x that comes out of that, and I'm left with x plus 3. And that 3x is just 3 times x. So I factored both both denominators. Now I'm going to circle the stuff they have in common. So they have a 3 in common. They have an x in common. Is there anything else they have in common? Tessa? No. Because x plus 3 is a full factor, and then the x by itself and the 3 by itself are factors. You can't, like, combine them. Yes, Chica?
So you factored out 3x, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. It should be. Thanks, Jacob. Sorry, yes, it should be x plus 1, not x plus 3. So now what we do is to make the denominator, now I'm going to do it over here. To make the denominator, we take everything circled but write it once. So 3x. And then we have another 3x and x plus 1. So our common denominator is going to be 9x squared times x plus 1. That's going to be our common denominator. So I need both denominators to be 9x squared times x plus 1. What is the first denominator missing? Ella. 9x squared needs to become 9x squared plus 1. What am I missing? So we have to multiply x plus 1 on the top and the bottom. And then our second denominator is 3x times x plus 1. It needs to say 9x squared times x plus 1. So Warren, what is the second denominator missing to make it 9x squared times x plus 1? We're going to multiply the top and the bottom by 3x. I'm going to go ahead and distribute this as I multiply it. So I multiplied the numerators and the denominators. There's an addition sign in the middle, so I went ahead and I just added the numerators over that common denominator. On top, I've got 3x squared plus 7x plus 7. On the bottom, I've got 9x squared times x plus 1. Now I'm going to go back because there is something that I skipped by accident. I didn't mean to skip it. The domain restrictions, x cannot equal 0. And then after I factor this, x cannot equal -1. So those domain restrictions I kind of forgot about. Okay, going to the answer. Does 3x squared plus 7x plus 7, does that factor? Three x and x. It's got to be plus and plus. Is there a way to put a 7 and a 1 in there so that when we multiply back together, we get 7x in the middle? Not the way I did it. Is there a way to do it? If I switch these, what if I put 7 here and 1 here? Will that work? I got 1x and 21x. That's not going to work. And that's really my only option. So this is not factorable. Some of them will be factorable. And so since it's not factorable, this would be our simplified answer. And x does not equal 0, x does not equal -1 are the exact same as the start. So there aren't any extra things I have to add in there. So the same rules about checking the domain restrictions at the beginning and at the end, we still have to look at that. You guys have been doing that for a while, so hopefully we're starting to understand it. Questions? Do more? Do more. Okay, so subtracting. First thing you want to do is factor these so that we can find the lowest common denominator or lowest common multiple. So 2x minus 2 factors to be 2 times x minus 1. X squared minus 4x plus 3, that factors to be x minus 1 and x minus 3. So I look and see what's in common. And we have what's in common, x minus 1. And then we have everything else that's not in common, times by 2 and times by x minus 3. So our lowest common denominator is going to be 2, x minus 1, x minus 3. So for x plus 2 times x minus 1, what is 2 and x minus 1 missing to make it the same as our lowest common denominator? Hi. Did you bring us all coffee? Not cool. Brooke, can you answer my question? What is it missing? We've got 2. Hold on, let me get this out of the way. Go away. We've got 2 and x minus 1, but it needs to say 2, x minus 1, x minus 3. Right, so we are going to multiply the top and bottom by x minus 3. Then we have a subtraction sign. Then we've got our -2 x minus 1 over, and the factored version is x minus 1, x minus 3. So Sophie just walked in. I'm going to put her on the spot since she Didn't bring us all coffee. Sophie, this right here, this LCD says 2, and it's kind of messy because I didn't have much room. 2, x minus 1, x minus 3. Got it? 2, x minus 1, x minus 3. This denominator says x minus 1, x minus 3. What is this denominator missing that my LCM has? Right. So we multiply the top and bottom by 2. There you go. She walked in, had no idea what she was doing, and still could give me that answer. You guys just got to practice. You remember what to do. So now we're going to simplify on top. If there's 2 terms, you should put them in parentheses so that when you multiply, you remember you have to multiply like by the grid box method or FOIL. So I'm going to get x squared minus x minus 6 when I multiply that out. On the bottom, I'm not going to multiply it out. I'm going to keep it factored. And then we have a minus, and then we're going to multiply this out. So we'll get negative 4x minus 2. Okay, I still need the parentheses on the negative 4x minus 2. Does anybody know why I still need those parentheses? Anybody know why I still need those parentheses? So 20-some people in here, and nobody knows why. Like from 8th grade math. Yes. You said the word factor. I don't know if that was what you meant. I think you know what you're talking about. I don't know if you use the correct vocabulary, so then I'm not sure what you mean, but Nina? Right, this negative right here, this subtraction sign says we subtract everything over here, and I haven't done that yet. So I need to subtract everything. I could have done it sooner, but I didn't. So now I've got x squared minus x minus 6 plus 4x plus 2. And I'm just going to combine my like terms on top. X squared plus 3x minus 4 over 2 times x minus 1 times x minus 3. Oh, shoot. I forgot to do this again. First step. So I never did the domain restrictions. So I'm going to go back and do the domain. Well, I guess we can go back to right here. The domain restrictions from the beginning would be x does not equal 1 and x does not equal 3. Okay. X squared plus 3x minus 4. I should check to see if that factors. After I added it together, I should check to see if it factors. X and x, this minus sign means we're going to have 1 minus and 1 plus. Have to multiply together to give me 4. So I could be 2 and 2 or 1 and 4. If I put a 1 here and a 4 here and I check, that'll give me 4x minus 1x. And what does that add up to be? Positive 3x. So that does factor. We have that over 2 times x minus 1 times x minus 3. So this goes back to the first section where we were simplifying. Does anything cancel? The x minus 1s. So now we have x plus 4 over 2 times x minus 3. We check our domain restrictions. I have x does not equal 3. Did I lose any domain restrictions along the way? Yeah. So I have to put that at the end. X does not equal 1. And then I can be finished. Okay, so there are like 8 examples. And we're going to work on these. I'm going to pause the video. We're going to work on these so that you can get a bunch of practice before you start your assignment. You do not have to do every single one, but when you're looking in here, I don't want you to be like, oh, good, number 6 looks easy. I'll do that and then be done. That's not enough because you see number 1 is way easy compared to all the other ones. So sure, if you'd like to try number 1 first, you can. If you don't want to try number 1 at all because it looks super easy, that's fine as well. But you should definitely try more than just number 1. Let's say that everybody has to try the very last one. That was kind of like the one that we just did last. And then from there, you're going to pick different ones. Make sure you try at least one that has a trinomial in it. Like here's a trinomial 8. I don't know what happened to the numbers. Number 8 has a trinomial. Number 9 has a trinomial. Okay, so try some. I'll be around to help. Okay, so the last question. First thing we're going to do is find that LCM or LCD. And I'm going to have 2x minus 4. I'm going to factor that to be 2 times x minus 2. Then x squared plus 2x minus 8. That one factors to be x minus 2x plus 4. So now I see, what do they have in common? They have in common an x minus 2. What else do they have there that I didn't circle? They have a 2 and an x plus 4. So that's my lowest common denominator. I am going to rearrange it when I write it again. But that's my lowest common denominator. So for this whole thing, we're going to have a 2, an x minus 2, and an x plus 4. So now, what did the first fraction, that was 2x minus 4, or x minus 2, sorry. What did that one not have? What does that one not have that my LCD has? What does this one not have? We look over here. It has a 2. It has an x minus 2. What doesn't it have? It does not have the x plus 4. So on top and bottom, I have to give it an x plus 4. So up here, I'm going to multiply that together. Remember, to multiply, you can do this kind of multiplication. You can do it that way, or you can FOIL. But either method that you use, you're going to have to add together the middle 2 terms. I did mine by FOIL in my head. Okay, and then the second fraction has, in the denominator, it currently has the x minus 2 and the x plus 4. What is it missing to be the lowest common denominator? It already has the x minus 2 and the x plus 4. What is it missing? Times by 2. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by 2. I have to distribute that. So I'm going to get negative 6x plus 2. So notice how I multiplied it out as I was replacing each of these. I was multiplying it out. The next thing I'm going to do is actually, combine like terms. To do that, I'm going to have to distribute this. I haven't done that yet. Do it right here. So when I multiplied it out, it became a plus 6x and a minus 2. So now I have x squared plus 13x plus 10. Is that correct? Did you guys get the same thing? Anybody?
That's what I
All right. So after combining like terms, now is when I factor it again, if possible. So to get 10, I have 10 in 1 or 5 in 2. There is no way I'm going to get 13 in the middle. There's no way. So this one does not factor, which means I'm not canceling any terms. I don't know why I keep forgetting to go back. Well, I don't actually have to do this from the beginning. So I keep forgetting to write it at the beginning. X equals 2 or does not equal 2 and X does not equal -4. At the end, it's the exact same stuff. So I don't have anything extra because nothing canceled. Okay, so I'm going to pause this again. I'm going to walk around and see what questions you have from the other ones that you're trying. Make sure that you try at least one of them that has a trinomial in it. Okay, so I always start with lowest common denominator. So this has nothing in common, so my LCD is going to be 28x. So to be 28x, I have to multiply this one by 7 over 7. And then this one by 4x over 4x. And then after I combine like terms on top, I see if anything cancels. Nothing cancels, so that's the answer. Okay, the next question. I'm going to factor 3x squared, and I get 3 times x times x. I'm going to factor 9x squared minus 12, and I get 3 times 3x squared minus 4. I do have a 3 in common. So my LCD is going to start with a 3. And then all the other things it does not have in common, x times 3x squared minus 4. So my common denominator should be 3x squared times 3x squared minus 4. So my first one is just 3x squared. I am missing the 3x squared minus 4. And then the second one, I have 3 times 3x squared minus 4. I am missing the x squared. So I have 3x squared times 3x squared minus 4 for my denominator, my common denominator. And then on top, I have 3x squared minus 4 plus, and then I multiply these together and I get x to the third. After I multiply that stuff out and add it together, now is when I start to see if I can factor. X cubed plus 3x squared minus 4. Because of that x cubed, this one's not going to factor. So x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4 over 3x squared times 3x squared minus 4 would be my answer. Okay, number 8, I've got x squared minus x minus 12, and I will factor that. X minus 4, x plus 3. And then I've got 12x minus 48. I'm going to factor that, take out a 12, and I get x minus 4. So for my LCD, I have x minus 4 in common. And then the stuff that I don't have in common is a 12 and an x plus 3. So my first fraction, I've got x over, and when I factored that, I got x minus 4, x plus 3. And I look over here, I've got the x minus 4 and the x plus 3. I don't have the 12. So that's what I'm multiplying into it. For the second one, I've got the 12 and the x minus 4, but I don't have the x plus 3. So that's what I'm putting in. So on top, I get 12x plus, I'm going to multiply those together as I'm writing them. I'm going to distribute this as I'm writing it. 15x plus 15. Nope. Try that again. 5x plus 15. There we go. And then I have that over my common denominator, 12 times x minus 4 times x plus 3. I'm going to combine like terms on top. We get 17x plus 15 over 12 times x minus 4 times x plus 3. At this point, this is where I see if I can factor, but 12 or 17x plus 15 does not factor. So nothing's going to cancel. That's going to be my answer. Just a reminder, I'm recording all of this, so if I go way too fast, it will all be there on the recording. I can also put it up on the board if you want to see it after I'm done with notes today. Okay, so this next one, let's see. I'm going to factor x squared minus 3x plus 2, and I'm going to get x minus 2, x minus 1. And then 2x minus 4, factor that, I get 2 times x minus 2. So they have x minus 2 in common. And then they also have another 2 and another x minus 1. So my lowest common denominator is 2, x minus 2, x minus 1. So for the first fraction, I've got 5x minus 1. And then on the bottom, I've got x minus 2, x plus 1. Oops, minus 1. I said plus, but I wrote minus.